Computer Science video with me, Mr Goff, from mrgoff.com. This video will focus on programming paradigms. A programming paradigm refers to a style of programming. There are four main programming paradigms: procedural, object-oriented, declarative, and functional. Some languages are written for one specific paradigm, but many these days are multi-paradigm languages. For instance, Python can be used to write procedural code. It can also be used to write object-oriented code, and it includes some elements of functional programming as well. Procedural programming, sometimes called procedural-oriented programming, is where we define a series of instructions that tell the computer what to do with the input it receives to solve the problem. There are a number of languages that can be used for procedural programming, including Python, C, and BASIC. Procedural programming uses the structured approach. This is where we use the three basic programming constructs of sequence, selection, and iteration to construct our algorithms. These can be combined to solve more complex problems. The structured approach also encourages programmers to break the main program into smaller, more manageable subroutines. This splitting up of a program can be shown in a hierarchy chart, as you can see below, where I've made a hierarchy chart for the rock, paper, scissors game. Here, we've split the program into three parts: get the user's choice, generate a computer choice, and check for winner. Each of these could be programmed as its own separate subroutine and then combined to create the game. Structured programming provides a number of advantages. Large programs are split into smaller subprograms that are easier to design. Subprograms can be designed by different programmers. Subprograms can be tested individually. Common subprograms can be kept in libraries and easily imported into other projects. Object-oriented programming, often referred to as OOP, is a paradigm where problems are defined in terms of the objects they represent. If we consider, for instance, the objects required to create a game of tic-tac-toe, we might have objects such as a game board, locations, that are the positions on the game board, a player, and a computer player. In an object-oriented program, there will be a number of objects that interact with each other. Each object is responsible for its own data, known as its attributes. For example, the player object in our tic-tac-toe game may have attributes such as name, number of games, number of wins, and choice of marker. The value of an object's attributes can only be affected by the methods of the object. To add one to the number of games after one is played, you would need to use the increment games method of the player object. Don't worry if this all sounds a bit confusing at the moment, because after this video, we'll be spending a few videos going into detail about object-oriented programming, including doing some practical object-oriented programming in Python. Object-oriented languages include Python, C++, and PHP. Declarative programming is where you specify the problem to be solved, and the language implementation solves that in the most efficient way. This includes languages such as SQL and Prolog. In functional languages, functions are the primary building blocks of the language. Programs are comprised of functions that accept input as arguments and return an output. Functions may accept other functions as inputs or generate them as outputs. Data stored in a functional program is immutable, meaning that it cannot be changed. The programs are therefore said to be stateless. As values can't be changed, functions are said to have no side effects. This means functions have what is called referential integrity, meaning that they can be called with the same inputs again and again and will always return the same result. If functional programming is sounding even more confusing than object-oriented programming, don't worry because this also comes up later in the course. We'll go into much more detail when we look at it then. Haskell is an example of a fully functional programming language. Other languages such as Python and C# incorporate aspects of functional programming. That brings us to the end of this video on programming paradigms. Join me again soon when I'll be back with a video starting to take a deeper look at object-oriented programming. Use the resources at mrgoff.com to help you revise computer science, and until next time, it's bye for now.